Go ahead.
Well, what I remember was, this is an adult memory of my mother, when I had Shayna, not Noah, but I had Shayna, and she was about 2. And Mother came to visit us in Colorado Springs, and we drove over to Rocky Ford with Jill and my mother, Shayna. I don't remember if there was anybody else. And we went to, it was just my, Rocky Ford is often the Frantz family house, the big farmhouse. But this was just about the Ratliffs, because we don't know that much about the Ratliffs. And so we went to the house where, I don't have all the details straight about her childhood, but we went to the house where she lived with her mother, and her mother had this boarding house. And she showed us around. There was nobody in it now. And she showed us the little kind of a shed or a garage or something out back. I can't remember where she stayed. And she would help her mother clean and cook and all of those things. And just being where my mother had been was really sweet. And she really enjoyed, she hadn't been there for a long time. And she often got her side of the family was often overshadowed by the Frantz family because they were so many and so strong. And she was always hesitant to, I don't know if hesitant's a word, but she was always quiet about sharing about her family as if it wasn't important, but it was to us. And so we went there, and then we went to the cemetery close to the Frantz family farm, and we saw the grave marker for her mother, Laura Bell. And nobody talked very much, and we didn't do much, but Shayna sat down on the gravestone. And I was afraid at first that would upset my mother, but she was very pleased. We have a picture of Shayna sitting on Laura Bell Ratliff's grave. And it was just, this is a memory that's not an action memory, it's just a memory of my mother having memories and being part of that continuity between my daughter, because I had kids late, and so being able to share in that, and then me, and then having my mother there. It was just a really sweet time, and there was nobody else, no Frantz family members to overshadow it. She just got to have her own, and I just felt like I was privileged to be part of that. I remember about my sisters, I was a lot younger, so I was in the position of teasing and annoying them when they had their dates come by, which I often did. I remember that Joan and Judy looked a lot alike during some period of time when they were dating, so it must have been middle school, high school, something like that. And I remember, I think it was Judy had a date, and they hadn't met her before. I don't know if it was a blind date or what. And so Joan, or I might have this wrong, it could have been vice versa, but Joan dressed up and acted as if she was Judy. Or it sounds more like Judy would do something like that, so I might have it backwards, because I was 8 years younger than Judy. And really flabbergasted this guy when he came in, and I remember she never actually left the house with him, but they had him going for quite a while, and I guess they could do that easily because they looked a lot alike, which is hard to believe now, but they did. So that's one memory, that they were pulling jokes on their boyfriend. Another memory is, since Judy was the closest to my age, she had a boyfriend named Dick Salmi, which was the love of her life in high school, as I remember. And he was into hot rods, and I remember he had this hot car, and I don't remember what it was. Maybe it was a Chevy. He was hot, and he had rolled up. He was just your classic '50s cool guy, James Dean guy. He had his rolled up T-shirt with his cigarette probably in it, and this hot car that he wouldn't let anybody drive. It had the steering wheel with the big handle thing on it, and he had this ducktail blonde hair, and he was cute. And I just remembered, that's all I remember really. It's not much of a memory, just that Judy had this really hot boyfriend. I think what I would want my kids to remember about the 6Js, and the reason that I brought Shayna here this time, is to see that we are a family, and that we're not a perfect family. That there's something that holds us together, and it's not just shared trauma or shared memories. It's that we actively work to have some kind of relationship with each other that includes and makes room for all of the differences, because we're all so different, even though the husbands and and sons-in-laws tease us about being so much alike, that we're all really different in a lot of ways, and we don't always get along, and there's always fallings out, but that we continue over the years to make some effort to find the common threads among us, and that we are a good family, that even though we all have our differences, that it's a good family, and that effort of getting along and finding out about each other and making allowances for each other really deepens who we are as people. And I would want my kids to have that, especially because we're isolated. We don't live around family a lot, and most of us are just in our separate little nuclear families. So I want my kids to know that that's what's possible, and that that's something to work for in their own lives.
My mom's best personality feature is being polite. She's very good at it, no matter how rude other people are to her. Example of that is going to restaurants and we have bad service or whatever, she'll always leave a tip anyway. So she's very polite. Something that my parents do that I want to do when I'm a parent is let my kids kind of learn on their own and give them a free range of things to do so that they can learn and learn the hard way, and then they'll know not to do it again instead of just keep them cooped up or whatever. One of my memories was being with Joyce, and we were going to a hotel, and I was in the car with Jimmy, and we were all kind of having a blast, and I just remember going to the hotel and drinking chili.
Who's up there?
Oh!
All right! I don't remember us having two sisters like that in this group.
Okay, I'll hold this stuff.
Pretty.
Let's feed the baseball guys first.
Birthday people first, then
Then
baseball.
baseball. You want cookies and cream or vanilla?
Hi, Katie.
Yeah. How long cookies and cream? Your birthday?
said that.
Where's mom? What do you want, Shayna? Come on, Fawn, I gotta get your picture on your birthday. Come on.
Right there, I want the horse's head.
Well, you'll have to check with the birthday
She wants the
girl.
horse's head.
Can I
Did
see
your
that?
sister take off?
How many people do we?
When is she leaving?
In the afternoon around 1 o'clock. I'll do smaller ones. But I remember a story about one of my sisters. Is that where we are? Yep. Go ahead and start. Okay, this is a story about Joan. And when I was really little, she was one of the few sisters that was around when Jill and I were growing up, because we were so much younger. And I remember having a hard time falling asleep. And I slept in the top bunk bed of the bunks, and Jill slept in the bottom bunk, and we couldn't sleep, and we were fussy, and my mom didn't know what to do with this. So Joan, who was probably either in graduate school at UCLA or she was teaching out at the high schools nearby, she went and got my mom's. They had old-fashioned powder containers. They were big, and the powder puffs were probably 4 inches across at least. And she went and got that. She brought it in, and she said, "The Sandman, I've been talking to the Sandman. The Sandman asked me to put this on your nose because it's sleep dust. And it will make you go to sleep, and it will make you have sweet dreams, and you'll feel so comfortable." It was so magical. So if I was on the bunk bed and Jill was down below, she had to have been 3, and I was 6, and it was still magical to me. And we fell asleep without crying. And I remember that really endeared me to her, or endeared her to me, because that was a kind thing to do, and it was creative and perfect for us. So that's a nice story. It's not funny, but it's a nice story.
That's really sweet.
It was very sweet. There's another story about Joan. Well, she was teaching high school. She was trying to teach spelling to these 10th and 11th graders, and she had some real losers, some kids who were just having a heck of a time.
I was one of those types.
Yeah, and I was in high school then. And so she came home and she said, I don't know how to get them to spell. And I said, well, the way I spell is I break words up so that I know what they mean. And so she said, well, she would try that. And she did. And she said, thank you, Jackie. She treated me like an adult. She said, that was really a good suggestion. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And I felt kind of, that's cool. And then she said to me, well, now I'm doing a project where I'm trying to figure out how to help them with their creative thinking. Now, where do you do your creative thinking? I'm just kind of doing a survey here, just a casual survey. This is private. And I said, well, I do my thinking in the shower. You know, I let the hot water run on me, and I just stand there, and I kind of, you know, just let go, and that's when I finally start to relax, and the thoughts come in, the ideas and stuff. Well, unbeknownst to me, she told her class that and as a teenager, you don't talk about being in the shower, and you don't talk about those kind of things. And I met some of her students a couple of weeks later, and they said, you're the one that does all of her thinking in the shower, ha, 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 ha. And I was terribly embarrassed, and I got really mad at her, and I said, that wasn't fair. She's always so respectful. That I didn't feel was respectful because I'm embarrassed. So, but she was always the one that was around the house when we were growing up. And she was really goofy. And not all of her daughters know what a goof she was. She was goony all the time. She would do silly things. She would sing silly songs. She wasn't afraid to look silly. She was a lot of fun. She was the most fun sister. And in later years, not everybody knows. Her kids didn't. You know, you're always different with your kids than you are with your nieces and nephews. So not all of her daughters knew that she had that goofy side. So that's Joan. That's better.
Thanks, Jackie.
This is a vacation story. This is really not much of a story. It's just that every summer we would leave California and go to Colorado. Every summer. And after the older girls left, then it was just Jill and myself and my parents. But while we were still a family, I have memories of us driving out in the big old Cadillac, because our parents got a new Cadillac every year from Detroit, because my dad had been part of General Motors. You have to come and help with this one story that you told your daughter. I'm almost done with this one. And so all of us were packed in. And I just remember being a really little girl, all of us, 6 kids and parents, at least 5 kids and parents, packed into this big old car. And it was boiling hot outside. We'd go through Needles, California, and we'd go through the Mojave, and it was just awful. And so my dad would get a big kind of a pan, and he'd put a huge block of ice, because in those days you used ice for the refrigerators and stuff, and he got it from the ice guy. So we had this big thing of ice, and we'd set it down on the floor of the back seat of this huge car, because there was just lots of room. I mean, it seemed huge. And we put our feet on it, and that's how we stayed cool. We put our feet on it, or we'd rub it around us, or we'd play in it, or we'd chip off blocks. But that's what was our air conditioning, and it worked, and I have really fond memories of it because it was so comfortable. And I remember the same trip we met someone else who had just installed this little air conditioner box that was brand new to the times, and they put it on the window, and it was supposed to be the new air conditioning, and it was really hot stuff. Well, we all liked ours, you know, it really kept us perfectly fun. So that was my vacation story.
Hey, what's your name?
Noah Kaufman.
And what is the yuckiest thing your mom cooks?
That would probably have to be stir fry.
Stir fry? What does she put in her stir fry?
All nasty vegetables, greens, and sick stuff like that.
Wow. Nasty vegetables, huh? All right, and what do you think your dad would think is the yuckiest thing your mom cooks?
I don't know.
Is there anything that she makes that he won't eat?
No.
How about something he'll eat but he probably doesn't like it too well? Nothing?
I don't know.
Wow. Okay, now I want to know what's going on in the boys' room at night.
A lot of talking, chit-chat,
What do you talk about?
everything. Just sit there and talk.
Like?
Bird out.
Give me an example.
Jokes. So
You telling jokes? Can
Yeah,
you tell me one?
Alright, how do you confuse a blonde?
I don't know. How do you confuse a blonde?
Stick him in a round room and tell him to pee in the corner.
Stick them in a round room
Tell him to pee in the corner.
and tell them to pee in the corner. Oh, boo. That was very good. Okay, now what's been the favorite thing that you've done so far at the reunion?
That would have to be hanging out with all family and everything.
Hanging out with your cousins and
Yeah,
stuff?
that's fun.
All right. What's your name?
Okay, I'm Shayna.
All right. What's the best or worst habit you got from your mom?
I'd have to say my worst habit is that I'm really opinionated, and I think I get that from the whole France girls generation. Everybody just clashes because we're all so strong-willed, I guess.
Okay. All right. So now I'm going to have you rank your aunts for just a minute, okay? You ready?
Okay.
Okay, so which aunt would you say dresses the best of the 6 J's?
I'd have to say Joyce.
Okay. Which one's the most fun?
Just to be around?
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't know. I guess Judy, because she has a sense of humor.
Okay. Which one do you think is the best cook?
Best cook? I don't know. I like my mom's cooking because it's different.
Okay.
It's not, it's unusual.
And which one do you think is the smartest?
I'm gonna take the 5th on that.
No, no.
Yeah.
You're not even going to give us a gander? Just a little bit of a hint?
Okay, Joan.
Joan?
Yeah.
Okay.
College professors have got to be smart.
And the last question is, what are you going to do when you get out of high school? What are your plans?
Oh, my plans. Gosh. Well, I have a whole year to change them, but as of now, college, somewhere. I'm not sure whether I want to go to a big university or a small one, but eventually I'd like to end up in California, but I don't know if that's going to happen. And I'd like to go into journalism.